The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. Lovin' baseball when we were 12 and innocent. And I am happy to have a guest today that is from literally the same neighborhood I am, and the same apartment development is Northridge in Jackson Heights, Queens, and the man is a returning veteran to the Comfortably Zoned Network. Glenn Hirsch, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Ralph. Thanks for inviting me. Always good to be with you.
It's always nice to be in your company. I'd like to talk today about when you were 12 and what baseball was like. I know you were a big sports fan, and we were lucky. We grew up in an area where we had like about 30 acquaintances each, and we could play ball in the schoolyard. They call it the park today if you go to Facebook Internet, but it's really the schoolyard, the 148, PS 148 schoolyard, and we were blessed. And what are your memories? Who took you to your first baseball game?
My first baseball game, very good question. Well, my father, Ralph, was he grew up in Brooklyn, and so he was a major Brooklyn Dodger fan. And in '58, when they moved away, they broke his heart, and he became a devoted Yankee fan. And then in '61, he became a major Met fan. So my first memory of a baseball game, believe it or not, I don't know how old I was at the Polo Grounds. Can you believe it?
Oh, I can.
I see pictures of the old Polo Grounds from like the left field shots. Sometimes the pictures that I've seen, and that's where I was sitting. I can see the seat that I sat at. It was, my first memory. Don't ask me who was playing. I'm sure it was I believe the Mets played at the Polo Grounds the first year, right? Stadium wasn't around. Yes.
First 2 years. First 2 years.
Yeah, first 2 years.
They opened in '64.
It was probably a Met game, and I would say probably a Met Giant or Met Dodger game. If I can, and I'm sure my dad took me. I remember being there because he took me to them. He took me there. He took me to football games when I was a kid, and I still have pennants from games that I saw with the Giants against the Redskins, Giants against the Cardinals. And so, he had a big effect on me, my dad. First.
And you grew up a Yankee fan as well.
I grew up, look, I guess I seem to be not in the norm. I thought I was. I'm a New York fan. Even though I've lived in Los Angeles since 1984, I don't root for any of the teams out here. For me, like where you say we grew up and we were devoted. I'm a New York fan. So when the Mets and the Yankees played in the World Series in 2000, I literally left the country. It was it was a good news, bad news things. Oh, great, they scored. Oh, shit, they scored. I didn't enjoy the game for a second. Like just the next 2 days, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. This Tuesday and Wednesday, the Mets and Yankees are playing each other. For me, it's a lost couple of days of baseball. I don't enjoy them playing each other.
You're devoted to two teams. Who was your favorite all-time player on? Start with the Mets, because I'm a Met fan.
So I would say it's the '69 Mets, and it was great to see Gil Hodges, voted into the Hall of Fame yesterday. And I guess on that team, I would say it was obviously cliche, but Tom Seaver.
Not cliche at all. He was the franchise.
That was a magical season. I reminisce about it a lot sometimes. And it's a long time ago now, 52 years, but that was some season. I still remember that summer, because it was an amazing summer. With the Mets and the moon landing and Woodstock. It was fascinating time.
Glenn, we were talking, Marty Rose and I, yesterday, because Gil Hodges was inducted. Right. And we were talking about memories of that team. And do you remember the Mets? All the Mets were on, when they won, they were on Ed Sullivan. And they sang a song, "You Gotta Have Heart." And they went from player to player. And the reason we recall this, Don Clendenin played an incredibly big part in the Mets winning. And that's...
when they got him from Pittsburgh, that's when the team really started to take off.
Right. Hate to correct you, he was playing in Montreal at the time.
Right.
And
I stand corrected. I'm a humbler and a better man.
Well, I'm sitting corrected on everything I stand for. So,
Montreal, you're right. That's right.
But that memory brings show business and baseball together in my mind, because Sullivan, people are younger than us, the majority of them, they don't remember Ed Sullivan, the Ed Sullivan Show, and the importance of Ed Sullivan. And it brought entertainment to us as a kid. So I'm going to ask you, because you were later went into comedy.
Yes.
And what are the parallels between sports, baseball in particular, and show business?
Well, in terms of comedy, it's the competitive spirit. It's trying to do the best you can. It's trying to be, give 100% every time you hit the stage, which is the same as, anytime you hit the field.
Coming up to that.
Right. And, of course, the parallels, and now you make me think about it, Ralph, it's like Joe DiMaggio said, on a September 8th, after the Yankees had clinched the World Series on a Tuesday night, they're playing the Detroit Tigers. And somebody asked DiMaggio why he played so hard, even when the game, they won the pennant already, and they were just getting ready for the World Series. He said, I play this hard because there might be somebody in the stands who's never seen me before. And so that's the way you hit the stage. That's the way I did. There was always somebody out there who, I wanted to do my best for. And, you're always looking for the laugh, just like the base hit, if you're looking for parallels.
Okay. Let's get back. Great answer, by the way. Let's get back for a second to specifically age 12, if you can. What year was that? Do you remember?
For me, 1964.
Okay.
64. The year of the World's Fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we lived maybe 20 blocks from it all, and it was the 7 train took us there. Right. The bus on Northern Boulevard took us there.
And that fence near 111th Street got us in for free. Look, at 12 years old, Ralph, we were running the streets like today. Parents don't want their kids across the street without knowing where they are. We were running the streets at 12 years old. I mean, at the age of 5, I was walking to school by myself. That just doesn't happen anymore. I don't know what changed. I don't know what did it, but 12 years old, we were, I looked forward to Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I still remember getting changed, running home after school, getting changed in my little bedroom with the the Dixie Cup singing, going to the chapel. I'm going to get married. Yeah, don't ask me why I have this memory. It was a beautiful spring-like day, and I could not wait to get down to the park to play whatever we could play, whether it be stickball, basketball, football. Didn't matter. We'd invent games to play. That was just a lifestyle we chose. So, and it was free. I don't think parents ever came into that park, but we were surrounded by parents on all sides. You know the neighborhood,
right? Right.
So it was a protected wall on all sides, and yet we played and played and played and played and played. And I sometimes tell people, if I didn't have to come up for dinner, I don't think my mother knew where I was from 1964 to 1973.
But she always knew you'd show up for dinner.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Where we were raised, it was, 16 buildings and 6 floors, 18.
Right, 88 to 92nd between 32nd and North.
Right. And I was on 91st, and we were separated by not a shopping center, but a street or two that was very, very, very industrial, if you will. We had Jack and Manny's candy store, and a few stores in between, and then there was your favorite bakery, and on Northern. Tell me about that bakery, because I'd only get to visit it. It was 3 or 4 blocks. When I was a kid, there was too far away when I was a kid, and my mother would take me there, and there was this wonderful woman. Perhaps you can refresh my memory what her name was, but she'd give out cookies to the kids. She was as charming.
We were fascinated by that place, and 89th Street, Northern Boulevard, where a bank is now. I was always fascinated. Richie Zabon, you know the Zabons, right?
I certainly do. Around the corner from me.
Well, Richie married a girl named Rachel who lived on 89th Street, right across the street from the school, that building, Howard Snyder's building. And her mom, I don't know her name. Her mom worked at that bakery. So she very well could have been that woman who was giving out cookies. But for me, it was a fascinating way that they wrapped the boxes of baked goods with that string that was hanging from the ceiling and went through another knob that it came down, and they tore it off.
Like a little spool.
White. Right, a spool. Exactly, a spool of red and white string. Fascinated me.
Well, I remember that. I do remember that. And everybody, in those days, if you went to visit anybody, relatives, what have you,
that's right,
your parents would always never come empty-handed.
Never.
That was the motto of the world at that time, and they'd wrap up a box of whatever it was.
A white box,
right,
whatever it might be.
And the string would go around and wrap it up, and they tied the string, and that would be the gift. You bring that.
Ralph, it's the Japanese had origami. Those bakery women were able to tie those boxes. They put the box on the glass counter. They pull the string. They wrap it around one time. They'd spin that box. They would tie it. It was remarkable to me. And boom, 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 and then rip off the string, and then you were out the door. It was just an amazing. Now that you got me thinking about it, I haven't thought about it in years. Those people were terrific.
Yes, absolutely. And in between where you lived and I lived, there was the greatest pharmacy, Bright Pharmacy. I don't know. And Linda.
Linda Gottlieb.
Linda Gottlieb is still on the Facebook. We have a site where we get to reminisce with people that we grew up with, a lot of times haven't seen in 40, 50 years, and we meet them on the site. And
it's amazing.
It is amazing. I don't know if you worked for Bright, if you drove that blue bike.
No, I never did. Well, they lived in my building. They were I was 3245, and they were 3243. I believe Linda lived on the 5th floor, if I'm not mistaken. But I knew the family. I knew the father well. Leo.
Leo is a great guy.
Yes. And I know that whole area. Look, the candy store was on the corner, Jack and Manny, and then the United Cleaners and the United Nations Cleaners, and then Bright, and then Safeway, and then the Chinese restaurant, and there was a beauty parlor that my mother went to that was in between the Chinese restaurant, or before the Chinese restaurant and Safeway, and then the Chinese restaurant, Moon's Garden, by the way.
Moon's Garden, yes. Yes. Yeah. And right around the corner, there was a Carvel.
Carvel was on 87, between 88th and 87th, which overlooked my house, which is now Kentucky Fried Chicken. And in terms of what's going on with my apartment, my mom passed away in April. And,
yes.
We are in process now.
Deepest condolences. Glenn, there will never be a worse day in your life.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It was a tough one, but we were there with her to the very end. She passed away in that apartment 309, underneath her $50 chandelier that she loved so much. Surrounded by the people that loved her, and she did it her way. She went out on her own terms. So that I'm very happy about. But we in the process of cleaning out. It's been very emotional, very nostalgic, and hasn't been easy to do. But I still look out that window, and it's overlooking the Carvel, which is now Kentucky Fried Chicken. And those memories flash back every time I look out that window, man. It's unbelievable. Okay.
Did you get your sports reading material from Jack and Manny's?
I did. Started there. Well, actually, it started when my father would send me down for the New York Times, Sunday New York Times, and the Sunday Daily News. And I would come upstairs, and I would lie on that floor because the sports section in the Times Sunday section was just unbelievable. I used to peruse the batting averages and the standings and the home runs. I don't know why it fascinated me so much. Sports has been that part of my life. It's really, it's existential. If there were no sports, I don't know if there'd be any Glenn Hirsch.
Well, let me tell you something. You brought back a memory for me of those days, because the New York Daily News on Sunday had what they call a roto-jour. That was the magazine section of the news. And every spring, they had guys go and take pictures of the Yankees in spring training when I was a kid. And you knew baseball was coming. You knew it was right around the corner. You couldn't grow up in Jackson Heights and not love all 4 sports, even hockey, basketball, baseball, football. This was before the Jets, before the Titans for me. And we had the New York Giants, the great New York Giants. But,
well, if we weren't playing sports, when you were down the park with the guys, you weren't playing sports, you were talking sports. You talked sports, you played sports. It was so important. I mean, it was really, or you couldn't wait for baseball cards to come out.
And you learn your debating skills. Yeah. Nurture your debating skills by who was better, Mickey The Duke.
Yeah, Willie. Yeah, well, Mays.
Yeah.
Mays,
Right?
For me, it was Mays and Mantle at that point. You know, Snyder had already kind of passed his prime, and he was moving on to the Mets. But you know, you appreciated what he had done. But I didn't really know him. I didn't see him play. I saw Mantle, you know, from 61 is when it really started for me with Maris and Mantle, and then Willie Mays obviously was always Willie Mays, and my brother became a fanatic Willie Mays fan, and to the point where, to the point where we were at Willie Mays Day in 1973 when the Mets celebrated him, and of course we sat there waiting for the big Lou Gehrig speech. Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth coming out of Willie's mouth. And what we got was, Willie, say goodbye to America.
He was not the most articulate guy in the world, but
he wasn't. But he was, to this day, as I consider it now. And and I used to argue Mantle all the time, and they'd argue Mays. But to me, right now, Willie Mays is the greatest baseball player that ever played the game, personally.
Well, that's high praise, because Mantle, for streaks in his career, was the better player. For career, though, Mays stayed healthy, and he really was great. I wonder what Mantle would have been like if he were better in rehabbing himself when he was injured.
Here's the deal. For me, Mantle was my hero, but I once heard him talking. I think he was on with I don't know what television show it was on, but he was on with Hank Aaron, another top 5 guy. And he said to Aaron, played till he was 41 years old. The Mantle said to him, Hank, I don't know how you did it. I was done by the age of 30. I just hung on for another 8 years. Mantle didn't take care of himself, and obviously he got hurt. At one point, he was the fastest guy in the league. He was the strongest guy in the league. And if they had the stuff that they have today, same with Namath, like arthroscopic surgery and those kind of things, and Tommy John surgery. If they had Tommy John surgery, Sandy Koufax would have pitched another 10 years. If they had arthroscopic surgery and that kind of surgery, Mantle would have played much better or had better stats after the age of 30. It's just the times you lived in those days. They could not fix those things. Mantle stepped in that drainage. I can't believe there was a drainage area in the outfield of Yankee Stadium. How crazy is that?
Well, I'll tell you that was in the World Series. DiMaggio called him off. Mantle had been playing right. DiMaggio calls him off, a ball hit by Willie Mays in that 1951 series. And you were absolutely correct. He stepped in a drainage thing.
Drainage pitch, right. Yeah, absolutely. Great.
And literally was never the same, but was great. Unbelievably fast. Power. I remember Stengel describing him as Ty Cobb with power when he first came up, which is kind of a nice compliment, I would say.
And the charisma that Mantle had, for young kids, really, it was just amazing. I mean, we were blessed in that sense in baseball in the 50s and 60s to have Mantle, Mays, and Snyder. Remarkable.
Let's too talk about the difference between a New York sports fan, because you lived in California all these years, so have I. Growing up in New York, we have that spirit, but is it recaptured anywhere? Am I imagining it? Like, there was nothing like New York.
No, you're right, especially at our times. Now with the Internet, things have been watered down so much. And, I have friends who are major baseball fans, and they watch occasionally, especially if they're out here now. My nephew he lives in Florida, and he's a major Florida sports fan, except for baseball, because the Marlins let him down so many times. You know, they win something, and then they sell off everybody. And
that has to be frustrating as hell.
Yeah,
if you're a Marlins fan.
Look, I still remember how bad I felt when I was a grown-up at this point when Darryl Strawberry left the Mets and went to the Dodgers.
Yes.
To me, it's still the worst decision this guy ever made. He made a lot of bad decisions. In terms of baseball, he should have stayed just where he is. That's why when I hear them talking about Aaron Judge going somewhere else, what a major mistake that would be. Major.
Go ahead.
You know, Seinfeld said it best. You know, it's gotten to the point where we don't root for a player, we root for laundry. We root for the team, the New York Yankees, the New York Mets. We don't root for Pete Alonso as much anymore, or Aaron Judge. So you have to readjust. But to me, when Strawberry left that team, it was a bad decision, and that's a whole other issue. That Met team, which should have had a freaking dynasty, should have won 2 or 3 World Series. Yeah.
Glenn, let's talk about you a little bit. What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Well, I grew up, obviously, you talk about 64. That's also at the age of 12 when I started getting interested in music, right?
Right.
A group called the Beatles came around, and I remember at the age of 12, a girl in my building brought in the album Meet the Beatles, and I was totally convinced that George was John and John was George, and we had a whole argument about it. So, but that's where I started. My first album ever. My grandmother bought me a little phonograph, which I remember, just where you put it on, and you had the little thing in the middle for the 45s. The first album I ever got was Something New, 1965 by the Beatles. First progressive album I ever got was the Traffic album. Then one of the first 45s I ever had, and I still have it. It's amazing. Do Wah Diddy by Manfred Mann. And we went to, remember McLaren's, the 5 and 10 on 84th Street in Northern Boulevard?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They used to sell 45s there for like 30 cents or whatever it was, which was a lot of money in those days. We used to go there, and I remember buying a song by the Dell Vikings that Warren Foreman's brother Jeff had told us about. I don't know if you remember Jeff Foreman.
Jeff Foreman had the greatest voice in the neighborhood.
Yeah. He was a musician. Yeah,
his mom was Lil, and if you remember that, and she was 5'5", a little powerful woman who would come out to the schoolyard and go, "Jeffrey, time to go upstairs." And Jeffrey,
I can top that story. When the Mets played the Giants at that 28-inning game, the longest game in the history of baseball, we were there, right? We stayed all 28 innings, right? We're up it was like 11 people left in the stadium at the point, at Shea. We hear a woman go, "Warren!" It was Mr. Foreman.
Warren was
to the stadium to look for him and yelled, "Warren!" right there. Hilarious.
That doesn't surprise me at all. She wanted her little boy home, and she was going to get her little boy home or do what it took. But like I say, Jeffrey had a beautiful voice, and he became a cantor, as a matter of fact, at a synagogue in Long Island, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jeffrey Foreman. I hadn't thought of his name. Bernie Rose, who does a show, the Met show.
Right.
Bernie played in a band with Warren. So,
Warren, Warren, Jeff's brother, obviously,
You right?
was a major drum fanatic, very, very young. In fact, now you got me thinking, I guess at the age of 12,
Right.
the Beatles were so big that we thought they were so cool that we would meet up at Warren's house, and I guess Jeff became, he would hear us do this, trying to sing together, and we actually cut out and made cardboard guitars and cardboard drums out of boxes, and we called ourselves the Savages.
Wow.
I haven't thought about that in 50 years.
And that was on 91st Street where I lived,
Right.
in pretty much the same building, but across the way.
Right.
Well, long time ago.
Yeah, you bet.
Glenn, you have one of the few lives that have come together in every way. Your daughter was not
together.
If you will, a Beatles song.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit how your daughter is getting along. She was a guest on Comfortably Zone a while ago, and we got to meet her. How's she doing?
Zoe is really progressing in the music industry. She signed a deal with a company called Audio Network. They bought an album, 9 songs, which the Audio Network, what they do is they play songs in movies, television shows, and commercials. So she's working hard there. She's writing in sessions with people. She's just progressing as I see it, because I really can't help her in the music business. I don't know it. And it's different from when we started, way back when you could just play, somebody find you, and then they put you in a recording studio. Now it's a whole other issue. But she doesn't really want to perform per se, travel and sing. She really loves, her passion is the writing of songs. And so she's been doing that. She's had a song come out with an artist called Ted on his album called Van Buren, called Forever Ago. It just came out last Thursday. She's got another couple of songs coming out with people. She's just becoming incredibly great. And I know I'm biased, an incredibly great lyricist and songwriter. Well, she always was into poetry. And now she's able to, write her pain and put it on paper. And it's just, I'm very proud of her. It's not an easy business.
I love to hear you kvel.
Thank you. I'm kvelling. I'm kvelling as we speak.
Beautiful. Hey, yeah. I enjoyed this.
Thanks for asking about her. Thanks for asking about her. And then my wife Sue, her. I don't know if she's spoken with you. She's a terrific actor and an acting teacher, and she wrote a book. So that's always exciting. During the pandemic, she ended up writing a book on acting, and I tell her, "You wrote a book, Sue? I didn't even read a book during the pandemic."
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So we're
Glenn,
moving away along, and always great to talk with you, Ralph.
It is my pleasure, and the wife next. Let's bring her on, and she can talk about the book.
You bet. That would be fun.
Beautiful. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you, Ralph.
This is one of my favorite interviews of all time. Catching up with Heightsmen. We call ourselves Heightsmen from Jackson Heights.
You got me kvelling again. You got me kvelling.
All right. Be well, my friend. And thank you for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zone Network. Loving baseball when we were 12, but not just baseball. Loving life when we were 12, and it transcended to loving life forever for Glenn Hirsch. Thank you again.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.